Soon the nation will have a new president, and with him, new hope for a better America. There are numerous problems that he will have to address, such as the struggling economy, the high unemployment rate, and the war in Iraq. But one of the biggest concerns of the whole nation is climate change.
As part of our research, we went to a local dairy farm. Dave Boss and his wife Marilyn gave us some valuable insight on what farmers might think about installing methane digesters and climate change in general.
I have my own questions about the validity of some of the assumptions being made about global warming. My concern is that they're basing their judgments on a record that's not all that long. Yeah, one of the advantages of increased carbon dioxide level is greater plant production.
Even though he's unconvinced of human involvement in global warming, Farmer Boss does use energy-efficient methods of farming.
And in our dairy barn, we use a heat exchanger on our milk. We have about 55 degree water temperature, so there's a plate cooler in there. The water runs through it, and it's real thin stainless steel plate. Water runs through it one way. Your milk's on the other side. Our 100 degree milk and 50 degree water, and we can take it down to about 65 degrees just using our well water. So we use a lot less electricity. The economics of it has forced ag to be more efficient.
I think another agenda that's going to be that we have to look at in agriculture is the global climate change agenda. And if we're not looking at global climate change in agriculture, I think we will be left behind as an industry. I saw an article in Time magazine recently that the president-elect was quoting Michael Pollan, who wrote The Omnivore's Dilemma, in an article that he'd written in the New York Times about the contribution of animal agriculture to greenhouse gas emissions, and the fact that the president-elect said he saw that it was more emissions than the entire transportation sector puts out. I think so. The global climate change agenda is going to be very important. There's a huge contribution agriculture can make, both through the forests, through carbon sequestration, but these are the kinds of issues I think that we're going to have to play in agriculture a very big role in the future, in looking at how are you part of the solution. This ties in also to the need to increase both the use of technology. There's a lot of capture of methane that's able to do now in a lot of the big operations, new technologies. We need to accelerate those new technologies. We need to find research for the kinds of problems that we're dealing with in agriculture.
Dave has done his research on methane digesters, even though the farm does not have one.
The way those methane digesters work is that when methane or when manure decays or kind of goes, it releases methane, and if you can capture that, you can run a power of an engine and power a generator. But to do it in cold climates, the challenge is to keep your manure warm enough to make the bacteria grow, because you need temperatures of 95 to 100 degrees in your manure to get efficient methane generation. So a lot of those digesters have been subsidized with grants from research or even grants from different government programs to try to encourage.
We believe that if government funded methane digesters, at least in the warmer parts of the U.S., more farmers would take advantage of this opportunity. This would help give a boost to the economy, since farmers would have more money to spend on products to sell. Taking action would give power to the people, or in this case, family farmers.
Why do we even care about this? It's probably just the natural face of the earth. Even if it isn't, how bad can it be?
As a scientist, I have sufficient data that leads me to believe global warming will affect us in major ways. This graph from the IPCC shows that global sea level and temperature have risen dramatically over the last 150 years.
But how does that affect us?
In the last century, global temperature has risen almost 1 degree Celsius. There are many global effects of this rise. Major ecosystem changes include large amounts of bleached coral, increased wildfire risks, and many species facing extinction. Both polar ice caps have been affected by this rise in temperature, and by 2050, it is estimated that the northern ice cap may melt completely if we do not take action.
If you think about it, that doesn't affect us directly.
Do you live on the coast?
Well, yes, in fact, I have a summer home in Fiji.
Well, your home could become an underwater home for fish.
I have to get better insurance!
But this isn't something that insurance can prevent. This is a serious, dangerous phenomenon that can influence all of our lives.
I never thought of it that way.
Not only will certain areas of the world get even wetter, some parts will become drier because of certain air currents called Haley cells. Adding to this list of downsides to global warming, there are climate-related health problems, including cardiorespiratory and infectious diseases and malnutrition.
I've had to really, over the last 3 years, revise my thinking about this. This is the Arctic ice, summertime Arctic ice in 1979, and this is what it was last year. So you can see very dramatic shrinkage, a shrinkage of approximately 40% of the Arctic ice, summertime Arctic ice gone. Last year you could sail around the top of North America like it was a big island. Now people are thinking, are shipping from Europe to Japan by virtue of the new channels that have been created.
So, what makes global warming what it is?
Global warming is caused mainly by greenhouse gases such as CO2 and methane. This is how it works. Some sunlight is reflected by things like ice, but much of it is absorbed, then later re-emitted in the form of heat. Some of this radiation escapes into space, while the rest is reflected back to Earth by gases and water vapor in the atmosphere. When there are more of these gases, more radiation gets reflected back to Earth, heating it up.
No wonder my custom-made ice cream from Brazil always melts before I can eat it. What specific gases are responsible for global warming?
Carbon dioxide is the most common greenhouse gas. The main producers of CO2 are transportation, farming, and power plants. Methane is 20 times more potent than CO2, but lasts about 1/10 as long. Taking this into account, methane still ends up being more powerful. It is naturally released from swamps and polar ice melts, while man-made methane typically comes from landfills, sewage, and livestock farming. Global warming is real, and it should be part of the many difficult decisions our new president will make in reconstructing the natural economy. If we take steps to promote less or no meat production, this topic of methane can easily be solved. Until meat consumption is lowered, the government should do something about all this excess methane. By funding methane digesters across the country, the government can make a big impact on climate change. Building these digesters will create new jobs, lend a helping hand to family farmers, give the economy a much-needed boost, and create energy without using fossil fuels. While there is no one thing that will serve to stem the tide of climate change, we must all do our part, even the President of the United States of America.